I'm late. It is 9:41. I'm later than I anticipated being, and I apologize. Um, I actually was having a really good phone call with a dear friend, and it was just a very important phone call, and so we just had to have a phone call. Um, and I knew that once I got done with my phone call, I would show up and everything would be okay. So I just finished my phone call, and it was a really good phone call. It was a blessing of a phone call. Um, so I'm late, and I apologize. Hi, Gypsy. But when you get them good phone calls, you just got to take them, you know. So I had a really good phone call with a friend, and it was really nice to get caught up. Um, so I've decided today what I'm going to do is the first thing I'm going to do is seal my little baby Highland cow. It's got her little daisy on her head. I'm going to go ahead and seal her because she finally dried all the way through. I'm going to seal her to give all these little fragments a little bit more support and stability. Some will eventually break off. I know they will. But then after she dries, I can go ahead and paint her because I learned the hard way. If you paint before you seal, it just sucks into the clay and looks horrible. So after I seal her, we're then going to repaint Mama so that we can get her done. I do have a very easy bracelet tutorial that I want to do to share with you all, but it's going to take a day. It's I don't have enough time tonight. But I also have some important stuff to talk about. Um, this is going to be one of those talking sessions, I guess. I can't get my Mod Podge open. Um, and I was having a really good conversation with a friend who is being wanting to get into going into like jails and prisons and counseling, but doing it from like a faith based perspective, um, and so that she can give her testimony and stuff. Now, all I'm doing is putting straight Mod Podge onto this little thing. Straight Mod Podge. That's all that's going on to this thing. Um, and it will go on white, but if as long as you get it kind of thin, it will dry clear. So I'm just Mod Podging the little baby here, and then we'll start putting color on Mama. But she was wanting to go into the jails and the prisons and do faith-based um, drug and addiction recovery and rehabilitation, which is great. Um, and we got to talking about why there is such a great need in the prisons and jails for these programs. And it's it's I mean, I can tell you in 5 seconds why there is so little success from people that come out of prisons. And I'm talking about prisons as opposed to like county jails, where some county jails allow people to serve like their state sentences at county jails that house state inmates. But then there are some that actually end up they have so much time that they just get sent straight to a state prison. The people that go to state prison normally suffer far worse than the people that go to the county jails to serve their time. Number one, you go and you have to basically adhere to a whole new society and rules, and you get introduced to a whole worse population than you probably ever knew existed to begin with. And number two, if you're in a state institution, you must pick an allegiance to remain safe, and to have a support system. And that support system is normally something gang related. Now, let's just go ahead and let YouTube know that I have my master's in psychology. I'm a retired parole officer. I've done probation, parole, interstate compact. I've supervised sex offenders, and I've also supervised juveniles, worked at wilderness boot camps, and I've also taught group therapy, done individual counseling, and counseling with teens in state's custody due to addiction, trauma, and violent outbursts. So Not talking on my rear end, but I am no longer practicing. I am no longer billing. So basically, this is just my big fat opinion, with a lot of expensive education behind it that I can no longer use. So you may take whatever I say tonight with a grain of salt and go on about your business if you want to. That's fine. It won't hurt my feelings none whatsoever. But it is something we need to talk about. Because we are seeing children that are self-harming, going into the going onto the wrong side of the tracks earlier and earlier, getting caught up in very adult roles in their life very early, and everybody wants to know why. Why are we seeing this? Why is this happening? Why are these kids having these problems? Why? It's a lot of the same reasons that adults are having problems that go into state custody and going to like state prisons instead of county jails. They go into a state or federally funded program where everything is neutralized. Everything has to be federally mandated, regulated, and there is no ability to openly discuss the really important things in life that touch our hearts. And so that's why I am such a component. Hello, Miss Jamie. I saw that. I haven't responded to it yet because I've had such a busy day, and then we had storms. I will be messaging you when I get done because I now have to check all my social media sites, and I will get right back with you. Keep listening, Gypsy. I'm just gonna yap away. But as you all know, even though I counseled and did all this stuff in my former life before I was disabled, I am still very adamant. You know, there is a time and a place and a need for counseling, but I also am very passionate that people need to know that when you have a family problem or if you have a problem with your child, your first response should not be to take them to a stranger to fix it. Families should have the wherewithal to say, hey, let's gather, let's get our elders together, let's use our internal common sense and what we, the knowledge we've gathered as growing up as adults in this world, and let's talk to our loved one who is struggling and see if we can help them before we turn them over to a stranger who 9 times out of 10 does more harm than good. Now, I'm sorry, I've worked in all the different kind of programs and homes and institutions and prisons and safe houses. And it is just very sad sometimes to see the structure that a lot of places have had to adhere to, and here is why. Because of federal funding. Federal funding changed the way that almost every prison, counseling facility, or any kind of rehabilitation program structured and discussed drug use and life decisions and making good or bad life decisions. And you're like, oh, Elizabeth, how did federal funding restructure that? Well, because when any place which takes federal monies to function, they must adhere to federal law, federal mandates, and federal regulations, which 9 times out of 10 tell them that they may not discuss one religion without discussing all, and that no one may bring up the topic of religion. It must be brought up by the person that is being counseled. And you most certainly may not discuss your own life, your own testimony, or your own faith, or in any way appear biased. Now, people say, well, they're just trying to keep everybody neutral. I can understand neutrality. But what they've done over the last 20 years is make it almost impossible for anyone to have a valid, open, honest discussion about a lot of the behavioral issues and emotional issues that people experience when they are under conviction when they have witnessed someone else's religious life and do not understand, or are kind of testing their existence against that, and they might get a little belligerent or upset or defensive about, well, my life's not going that well. How come theirs is? Is it all this religion? Is, they might get a little defensive. And there's nowhere to go to have an open conversation about other things. They've shut it down. So now all you can talk about is, although it's very strange because they'll let you talk about, any kind of um, social construct or gender identity or gender norm, um, freely, but you can't talk about religion without discussing them all. And it gives the power to the people to almost always, if you do talk about religion, there will be an ethical violation, someone will file a grievance, or you'll end up in a lawsuit or an ethical dilemma at work. So most people just will not even discuss it. So it's almost become impossible in this nation to have an honest conversation about any kind of spiritual existence in this world. And when you're struggling mentally and emotionally, and you're having failed internal dialogues, and your ego is taking over and causing you massive issues, one of the things that you should first think that you need to do is to say, am I self-serving? Am I possibly just self-obsessed and not putting any energy into anything else or anyone else? Is that why I'm struggling? Is that why I'm failing at relationships? Is that why I'm having these problems? You can't do that anymore. So a lot of people never understand that in many ways what they are experiencing when they're having these big issues with ego and with emotional maturity and with defensive posturing around lifestyles and the appearance of other people's lives on social media, lots of times they're not really weighing monetary and physical assets, but they're actually probably weighing what they believe that these people have acquired emotionally, spiritually. How is it possible that they have manifested their positive lifestyle and I'm missing this manifestation because I don't understand it? But how do you have that conversation when any place that has federal funding cannot openly discuss these issues without opening up Pandora's box, basically? So if you want to talk about one religion, then you have to stop and make time in your counseling sessions to talk about every religion, or you have to hope that the person will bring it up and directly address it, because otherwise you are not allowed to. And it creates a lot of hardships for counselors that are really trying to help people that honestly don't have a mental disorder, that don't need to see a psychologist, that don't need to be placed on possible psychotropics or antidepressants. And if you look at the latest study on antidepressants, you will see that now they're questioning if serotonin um, depletion and lower levels of serotonin actually are the cause of depression, because they just did a research and study to where it's now, and I think it was the New York Post that wrote about it, there's now a question, apparently, allegedly, in the community that serotonin potentially is not even the cause of depression. It could be, a plethora of other things, but we've medicated these people for years, and now all this research is now stating, oh, we really created all this medication without really being sure. It could potentially be something else. That's basically what all these studies are now saying. So a lot of people have been basically made functioning addicts without the research and funding behind it, potentially. So this is kind of scary. Hi, Clara. So you have to be super careful. I would very rarely refer someone for a medication assessment unless I felt that they were really, in a position to where they were going to do harm to themselves or someone else and needed, monitoring, an involuntary hold, or some kind of chemical balancing. I was always very hesitant to, push a lot of medication, especially for younger people or people that were in the times of their lives where they should be experiencing hardships and a lot of emotional questioning and soul searching. Um, for some reason, people don't think that you should ever question yourself or that life should have questions or that you should be concerned with um, certain behaviors you may catch yourself, participating within or something. At some point, we stopped talking about bad decisions and we just started absorbing and saying all of it's okay. Just have an authentic experience. And as long as it's an authentic experience, it's okay. Now, I'm not saying that emotions aren't valid. Every emotion is valid and you need to experience your emotions and handle them. But you also need to have a healthy respect for doing things that place you in a negative path or place you into a potentially harmful place in life. And we're not allowed to talk about those things anymore because you're disrespecting them or you're questioning something that they believe. Well, yes, but aren't you here because you're not making good decisions and your decision making skills are affecting your daily life to a point where it is now so upset and you're in such a maladjustment period that you're seeking out aid. Well, okay, you came here for aid. I'm trying to help you find a foundation. That means solid ground, but every time I say the ground is solid, you go, well, I don't believe it is. And if I don't believe it is, I'm allowed to believe whatever I want to believe. We have created a combative society that always thinks it's right. But you can't grow in life unless you acknowledge when you're wrong. But no one's ever wrong anymore because everyone's valid. And this is one of those three dog butt sniffing circles that we never get out of. And it just confounds me. Claire's with us again. Claire, you're just becoming part of the family. You're just always here. Claire, I'm very vocal about this. Even though I know I counseled and there is a place and time for it, I feel that the family should be the first unit for all discussions if something is affecting someone. The family should have the wherewithal and ability to pull together and say, we need to talk about this. This is not good. And a lot of families just, I don't know if they don't think, if they're terrified that someone will call social services before they can get the issue resolved, or if they just think they're going to, well, they create professionals because apparently we're failures at this. But parents, please believe me when I tell you that you have the power to change your children's lives just by using words and affection. Imagine that. you know, and it's so strange, because a lot of parents will be like, well, he's having an outburst. And then after he has his outburst, he goes outside and he sits as a swing and he calms down. But then when he comes back in, I don't know what to do. Have you hugged him? Have you told him, I know you're going through something, and when you get ready to talk about it, please come talk to me? Have you told him that you don't appreciate the behavior, but you understand that there's something causing this behavior, and when he wants to discuss it, you'll be there for him? Well, that's what I brought him here for you. Well, I can help him here, but I can't follow him home. I can't live with you. This is, parents have got to have an active role in their children's lives again. And it boggles my mind how far we have fallen into this belief that parents are like an enemy. They're like they're not Switzerland anymore. They're absolutely enemy territory. And that is so untrue and unfounded and harmful for children to grow up thinking that the people that birthed them are the people that they should despise and be leery of. No, 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 no. You should be leery of strangers and people that try to pull you away from those people that have protected you and taken care of you your entire life. Not to say that some homes are not absolutely screwed up and should not have children in them. I've seen a many. But there is a time and place for family to resolve their own issues. And we as a nation have gotten way too reliant upon federal intervention and federal programs to fix the problems in our homes and in our family relationships. And y'all, being a competent adult means taking care of your crap. Sometimes that crap stinks, but it's yours. And until you sit down and wipe it off your shoe, it's going to follow you wherever you go. So you need to sit down and take care of it. And just because you go and see someone every 7 days and talk about it doesn't mean that it's resolving your issues. It just means you're sharing your problems, but are you doing the work? If you are going and seeing a professional, are you following what they say? Are you doing your homework? Are you actually investing the time within yourself? That's another issue that's boggling my mind about the world we live in today. No one invests time within themselves anymore. Boggles my mind. Clara, I like it when we agree. Sometimes we have big discussions and we have like huge existential discussions here and theoretical discussions, and we don't always agree. But not agreeing for me is just as healthy as agreeing. Disagreements often lead to agreements, and agreements sometimes lead to disagreements. But it's like this whole big circle to where we have to find the blind spots. And I expressed this to a friend the other day. I said, I know that I have blind spots. So I automatically, when I befriend people, look for people that can cover my blind spots. And that means that normally I can cover their blind spots. And the more friends that I find that are different from me that can cover blind spots, then guess what? The better vision overall I have. So I have a lot of friends that are very different from me, but they're very beneficial and useful. And we help each other. And we kind of help each other's, we do the Bondo repair on our rusty spots for each other. And we all come out a little bit better. And we don't have those circles of support or friendship like we used to anymore. We are losing our we're just losing the ability to be social. We are herd animals. We're not top of the food chain, and unfortunately most people want to think we are. We're not. But we're not top of the food chain. We are herd animals. And therefore we find safety in numbers, and we feel protected in numbers. And that is because we rely upon each other to look for the predators and those that would do us harm. Federal funding over the last 30 years has separated us socially, put us all in little boxes to where we have to check off what we are, who we are, where we belong to, has made sure to make us very much identify our differences and blast them out and tell them to everyone on social media and really talk about every way that we are unique from everyone, to where we're not bonding on any way that we're the same. They have pried us apart so far that the glue, honestly, of society is failing. And that is my opinion. My opinion to have. YouTube may hate me after this, but it's my opinion to have. And it's to the point where when families are in crisis, rather than the families coming together and trying first to be a family resource, they go, oh no, we must seek a professional stranger that knows nothing about us that can fix us miraculously. Now, I've seen horrible families. I've supervised murderers. I've seen people that needed professional help and that needed a stranger, and there was going to be no family outreach program that was going to work. I've met those people. I've supervised those people. I understand those people exist. But why are we so terrified of coming together as a family and talking about our deficits? Why are we so terrified for the Department of Children's Services or Child Protective Services to admonish our parenting skills? Why do many parents fear the truancy officer at their school more than their bishop or pastor or religious leader or guru or whoever they follow in their spiritual life? Why has everything become centered around federal funding? And why has the federal funding restricted our ability to socially accept each other? Social acceptance is now dictated by federal funding. Isn't that backwards? Shouldn't federal funding allow us to socially thrive and openly speak about the things we need to speak about because we are the ones funding them? It's our money. Shouldn't it be used in the way that we need it used? Why are there rules for us when we're the one paying for it? Boggles my mind. Anyway, so a lot of these people that go off to prisons and they go into these state prisons, they see far worse things and wisdom. Y'all, I'm a hillbilly. Somebody asked me why what happened in Florida yesterday happened in Florida. And I said, you don't pull the bull out of the pasture unless you're going to slaughter him or you have a replacement. Farming wisdom. Think about it. And make no question of it. That is an alpha they went after. And you don't pull an alpha out of the pasture unless you're done with them, you're gonna eat them, or you got a replacement. Because those alphas keep that herd moving forward and in alignment and safe. And so wild horses out on the Bureau of Land Management area, there may be 15 to 20 different herds with studs. And then there'll be those little bachelor groups of boys that have to go off and find their own herds. Each herd has an alpha. Those alphas take care of their group of people. And alphas sometimes fight and have issues. We're just animals. So we're just watching alphas have problems. It's just that our alphas have more deception than deceit because animals behaviorally they gesticulate. Everything is just animation and physical interaction and body language where we're more cerebral and we think and we plot and we create these little analysis and we create these little theatrical displays to psychologically and emotionally sway people. And we're just not really good hearted people most of the time. And we would be if we would go back to more of our animalistic senses and behavior, society would be a much better place. But you've got to look at alphas and the behavior in the wild, and then what's going on in the human world because it's just the same display. It's the same display, just zhuzhed up and bougied up because hey, we learned how to wear clothes and talk a language, and but we're still animals, and we're still doing the same things that stud horses do, that great apes do. That it's just the same thing. It's just the same behavior. So why don't we want certain alphas in the herd? Why are we thinking that we need alphas that can't do the alpha job? Why would a herd pick an alpha that can't keep them safe or defend themselves from other attacks? Why would you pick a submissive alpha when the alpha's job is to keep you safe and to ward off attacks from other people and to keep your herd running plumb? Yeah, I worked with livestock a lot. My whole life I farmed. So you see a lot of displays and you start to understand, a lot of this performance art that animals do, and then you see it in humans too, you know. And, the girls at high school would flirt and I was never much of I wouldn't flirt. I'm sorry. Never got good at it. Ain't good at it now. Um, I'd rather my husband buy me taxidermy or craft leather crap or um, take me fishing than to come in with jewelry or anything like that. I'm just a plain spoken hillbilly. But those girls at school would flirt and they put on this big show and they just have to rub up all up around that boy and they'd be like, "Don't you have a crush on anyone?" Well, it's my business. Why would I come to school and act like a baboon in heat and rub my hind end all across the carpet in everybody's face? I don't think that would be very becoming to the person that I did think I liked. Wouldn't be very respectful. Have you thought about your behavior and how you project yourself? Because you're just about two red balloons shy of looking like a baboon in heat. And I would tell the girls this, and they would be like, "Oh, how dare you!" Well, I bet your mom would be saying the same thing. She saw what you just did. So I've always been plain spoken. Always been plain spoken. But I'm also very aware that we are just animals. And to understand any kind of superiority or cerebral neurological emphasis that humans have, we have to understand our animal instincts and try to understand why we've dressed them up and paraded them around to something else. So it just boggles my mind. Sorry, that was like a side squirrel that I had to chase for a minute. Hillbilly opinions matter. We need t-shirts. I'm glad I made somebody laugh. Laughter is the best medicine, and sometimes you need to laugh about serious crap because there's nothing else you can do. Yeah, rather than cry, let's just laugh. But that's why we have so many issues. Is we've limited our discussions down to this minuscule little okay. This is what we can talk about without being a bigot. Well, that's not going to cover very much. I can talk that much in 2 minutes. This isn't going to get me through life. This isn't going to help me with a bad marriage. Mean teenagers, a mother in law that hates me. What am I supposed to do with this? Used to be you could talk about everything. Why do you limit communication? Well, in the wild, animals isolate those that they wish to punish or weaken. Hmm, that's interesting. Don't we feel isolated and weakened? Hmm, who's doing that? Why is it being done? Is that our alpha? Are alphas supposed to behave that way? But wait, who is supposed to be leading and guiding and showing me how to live in this wild wilderness? Oh, I'm on my own? But I thought I had an alpha. Oh, that alpha is not doing so well. And the herd falls apart. But nobody wants to talk about it. And kids can grow up and turn into anything. You can raise a kid the best, and they can still have it within them to turn into a monster. I've seen some of the most pious adults cry over their children that just broke the mold and went to prison. And I guess if you believed in demonic possession, that would be probably the closest to some I've seen. So kids, the free will, that free will thing's a pesky thing. But I will say that what you experience at home, you normally carry into your own world. You might tweak it and change it, but you normally just continue it because it's what you were taught. It worked. As dysfunctional as it is in your brain, it worked. And so it used to be in the 70s and the 80s and even into the 90s. Things were getting a little haywire, but families were still mostly functional and it worked. So most marriages and most relationships and most societal structures worked. And in the last 20 years, we slid down that hill real quick, didn't we? We have more society failures than we have wins. We have more social struggles. We have more social segregation. We have more rage. But they put federal funding out there to give us professionals to make everything better. They were going to fix everything because families and parents weren't able. And they've had 40 plus years and it's not working. How do we give you back the federal funding and just go back to being families that take care of ourselves? Oh, we can't? Oh, we could be criminally prosecuted for that? Shucks. That sounds like I entered into a punitive relationship with my government and I didn't even sign a document. How did that happen? Makes you wonder. Because even the horses that run free on the ranges out west are still socially successful. And they're animals that are worried about food, breeding, and fighting over territory. But they're successful. They're keeping their herd alive. They're interacting well. They're raising their babies. They're keeping them safe. They're keeping their territory patrolled and safe. But we're supposed to be so, neurologically advanced and we're supposed to have so much, just pious righteousness because we're human. But if you look at mankind next to herds of wild animals, we ain't doing so good. Heck, we don't even want to have young anymore. We can't raise them without taking them to a stranger for professional insight because we don't know how to raise them. They've told us we don't know how to raise them. I can't educate them. Somebody else needs to do that. I can't do anything. I can literally give birth to them and that's about it. Because I've been told to entrust everything to these other organizations that were built to benefit me. Been waiting for the benefit for 40 plus years. Where's that? I'm really, seriously, I would like to have a benefit from it. If this was supposed to be a benefit, where's the benefit? Please. Send it to me. And so it was very easy for me to answer her question as to why people suffer when they go into a state facility as opposed to a county facility, because in a state facility they receive federal funding and any kind of rehabilitation or ministry service is very strictly monitored. And if it receives any federal funding, then it normally faith-based stuff is out the door and you can't talk about any of those things. But in county jails that only house state inmates, they still get a lot of independent funding so they can flex And they can bring in faith-based ministries that can talk about the spiritual war within. And they can acknowledge the battle of good and evil. And so you see a higher success rate from smaller jails because they can bring in these programs that are not allowed in federally funded places. But with all the research and everything they've told us for 40 plus years, isn't that backwards? Weren't we supposed to see such a big hoopla from the federal funding? Wasn't it supposed to fix everything? Wasn't that supposed to be the Band-Aid that covered all sins? And everybody's like, oh, you're blaming the government. I'm not blaming the government. The government tried to create programs that failed because the government is not the family. The people that failed were the family. Families failed. We failed. We failed as independent individuals who placed our trust in other things than ourselves and our own insights and our own senses and our own beliefs. We failed ourselves. Because when someone said you can't do this or you can't do this well enough or you're going to inhibit your child or you're going to ruin your child, we believed them rather than thinking, hey, you know something? If in all this world, if the stars aligned and for me and whomever to lay down and create this human being was 1 in 400 and something trillion chances that it was this kid I would create, someone up there must think I can do something right. We can't talk about that anywhere because then that would lean toward a faith-based discussion. We can't talk about that anywhere that has a federal funding. So we take key discussions about key emotions because, I'm sorry, everyone has a spiritual inclination, whether you want to say you do or you don't. You have a spiritual inclination. You either feed it or you starve it, but you have one. But if you starve it, you are missing out on a huge part of what makes you function and function normally better with a warmer heart and a better energy. So why are we cutting out all of these things that seem to be beneficial? And if we compare ourselves to the wild animals that are supposed to be stupid and dumb, why are we so far behind them? They're still maintaining themselves. They're still holding their own. They're still doing what they've been doing successfully for lots and lots of years. Why are we failing? Why is humanity struggling? Why are we seeing these huge breakdowns? Why are we seeing all this rage and all this social drama and all this isolation and just aggression for no reason? Like, I can be on here for 2 minutes and somebody that has literally been like, I got 30 seconds in, I just want you to know I hate you. Well, you were either the most intolerant person I've ever met or the smartest, because in 30 seconds, I normally can't even make a full sentence in my head because I'm paying attention. Did you pay attention? Are you sure? How about you give me a minute 15 or maybe 5? It might help. So I don't know. That's just where I am today. So I had this huge conversation with her. I felt better after I had it because it's nice to know there's still people that have a heart to want to help and go in and help people that are really in huge struggles and in huge areas of their life where they're like, I'm really struggling with this and I don't know how to get myself out of this hole. Humanity. We're supposed to link together and help each other. Why is it not happening? That's what I'm saying. Echo chambers are so dangerous because that means if you have a blind spot and everyone you listen to has a blind spot, then you've got a very heavy weakness that someone's going to identify in 5 seconds. And it just means you're just a bigger prey item than you were 5 minutes ago because you've weakened yourself. I need lots of different people around me because I have a lot of blind spots. Let's be honest. I know I have blind spots. I need smart people around me because I need them to help me with my blind spots and I want to help them with their blind spots. That's what society, that's what a community does. You know, it's not Whoville. We don't hold hands and sing a song around a tree once a year. We actually watch out for each other. We interact. We communicate. We have dialogues. We talk about the nitty gritty things and the good fun things. And we deal with each other's pain. And we normally do it in in a very kind and gracious and compassionate manner. But that's leaving us. And it's not that we're not talking about it, it's that we're not allowed to, or the words no longer mean what they used to. They're actually changed in the dictionary. The definitions are changed. Or to discuss certain things now has made you a bigot or someone that should be feared. How are we supposed to answer questions and concerns? How are we supposed to have these huge theological discussions that help shape our beings if we can't ask the questions that concern us the most? If everything has to be socially appropriate, but you can't learn how to be socially appropriate, how do you know you're socially appropriate? What is socially appropriate? Because 2 years ago I thought I was a woman. Now I'm not so sure. The dictionary can't even tell me. And everybody I ask says they're not a biologist, they can't answer the question. But the biologists on TV refuse to answer the question too because they say there are too many deviations for them to address. What am I? Well, if I listen to the specialists, I'm nothing. Thank goodness I have a brain. Guess what? I'm a woman. That's really easy. But you know something? There'll be somebody down there telling me I'm a bigot because I discerned what I am. Even though for me to try to tell someone else what they are is wrong, for them, if I say I am certain I'm a woman, I'm a bigot. They can tell me what I am, but I can't tell them what I think they are. That seems wrong. I thought acceptance was when we both held each other's hands and energy went both ways. It's not going both ways. Anyway, these are the things that like keep me up at night. You know, it's like we need a dictionary to tell us what words mean, so we can communicate. But literally, a great ape that only has grunts, whistles, and maybe a yell or two has a more successful family unit and social group than humans. Gee, I guess communication and words are maybe a little overrated. Or maybe they're a little misused. Could be both. Or it could be something else. We've got a funny group in here tonight. I know. I just get so confused sometimes, and I really want to understand. Like I have a heart. I want to understand, and I want to help. So I reach out to people, and the people go, "Why are you reaching out to me?" Because you seemed confused, and as though you needed maybe someone to talk to and to discuss things with, and to. Why do you want to know anything about my life? Because you're a person that seems to be struggling, and that pulls on my heartstrings because I know personally what it's like to struggle. And I always feel better when I talk to someone. Would you like to talk with me? I don't know you. Do you go to counseling? Yes, I have a therapist. How long have you been going to therapy? For a few months. And what all have you talked with your therapist about? Everything. I talk to my therapist about everything. Do you know your therapist like from since childhood? No, they're just a professional that I trust. Do they live in your community? No. I wouldn't go talk to somebody that lives in my community. I go to the professional in the county over so they don't know my business. But if they don't know your business, how are they going to help you? Would you like to talk to somebody that lives in your community that may be suffering from some of the same issues so we can commiserate and maybe come up with some kind of compromise and help each other out here? No. Why would I want to talk to somebody in my community? Did we all see how that is like the most fruitless endeavor? Honesty, compassion, it's just it's not there anymore. It's not there anymore. And even people that go to therapy think they need to like provide some kind of social media profile to their therapist. That's not going to get your problems fixed. You got to show them the dirty nitty gritty. Because if you go in and pretend it's okay, guess what? They're going to think you're okay. They're going to think you just want somebody to talk to. If we don't talk about what's wrong, we can't fix it. Well, why can't we talk about what's wrong anymore? Is it possibly potential that nobody wants to fix it? That when it's not fixed, it's more profitable? Who profits from it? Well, if we're screwed up, then we get taxed harder to create federal programs to fix things. Because we've had those federal programs to fix things for over 40 years. But wait, haven't we already covered that those federal programs are failing us miserably? And that families are doing worse? Gee, there's that 3-dog butt sniffing circle we just got stuck in again. Ain't nothing working right. So why can't we break the circle? Why can't we stop sniffing the butt in front of us? Why can't we go another way? Why is that deemed wrong? Who made up that rule? Society? But we've already said that society is no longer a community of people that know each other. It's just basically people that pretend to be things to exist in the plane where they feel comfortable with what they think they are. So why do we care if society thinks anything about us? Because apparently society is fictitious. And here we are, the animals on the planet with big old whopping brains, and plankton is probably successfully socializing better than us. But we can't talk about that. Because if we compare ourselves to plankton, then that might make plankton feel bad. And they might not identify as plankton. I could be misidentifying them. And then if I tried to even try to throw a pronoun in there, God knows, Lord help us, then I could be in a defamation lawsuit with plankton. So we can't go there. Shh. So really, people, how do we get out of this hole we're in? If we're not allowed to request to have a strong alpha, if we're supposed to be okay with submissive alphas that can't take care of the herd, if we're not allowed to successfully raise our own young, if we have to pay for programs that fail us, but when they fail us, we still get punitively and in a hostile manner punished and taxed even harder to create more programs to fail us even worse. But we can't talk about that, or we're horrible people that don't love the government that's creating the federal programs that are failing us. Because you should love people that fail you, according to the federal government that's funding programs that are failing us. They do it out of love because they're supporting us, but not really. But they're trying to, not really. But they take our money and they attempt to. But maybe we're just too stupid to be successful. Or maybe we listen to the wrong people. We should listen to ourselves more often. Maybe we should move out west and live with the wild horses, because those alphas seem to be doing a heck of a better job than ours. I mean, right now, the Brahma bull that I had to, like, duck and jive to get to the pond to fish in 4th grade, he would be a better world leader than most of the world leaders I'm aware of right now. That Brahma bull kept his pasture locked down. Nobody had a beef with him. He was on everything. He owned every blade of grass, and he knew when anything moved. And you did not cross his pasture without fear of huge repercussions. I made it to the pond like a whole 2 times to fish. I ended up a tree most of the time until my dad got home and could chase him off and let me down the tree. I got in a lot of trouble for trying to fish at that pond, but there was big bass in that pond and I really wanted to catch one. And I learned that that was his property and not mine, and that there were boundaries, and that I needed to listen to people that established strong boundaries because they meant what they said. Guess what I've never, ever been able to find in any of the social circles I've lived in? The same security of communication that I have with that Brahma bull in 4th grade. That Brahma bull had better boundaries and communicated with me far greater than any adult human ever has in my entire life. And all he did was blow snot and snort and paw. But we have the big brains. Maybe it's not the brain we're missing anymore. Maybe it's all those 6 senses that they tell us we don't need anymore. Maybe it's all those old folklore and old wives' tales that the old common people talked about that kept them alive and fed, safe. Y'all read them old Foxfire books about how to survive in the wilderness and about families that had hard times and all those old ways that are not celebrated anymore. Y'all ever read about those? Can't hardly find them books anymore. And if you do find them, they cost several $100s. When I was little, you could buy them for $15. There was 10, 12 volumes. Now, if you find them on a used bookstore or eBay or Amazon, they're expensive. Perhaps because the wisdom that's in them finally showed just how smart it was. Hard to find them books now. It's also hard to request to create survival skill classes and to get funding for things like that. I took my boy to Tiger Scouts and to Webelos. We quit after 2 years because after 2 years, I'd had to be the den father for 2 years because no other fathers really wanted to be the den father. But then when it came time to do activities and get the badges, none of the fathers could do the activities or get the badges, and they would all go, well, gee, you can do this. You want to help us do this? Okay, sure, I'll help you do this. Even though I'm not the father, I will show up and help you do this. So I was the den father for 2 years. And I finally had to look at my son and I said, sorry, apparently your mother is Rambo. And I'm sorry, I didn't take on 27 other children to raise. How about we just stay home and do this stuff in the backyard because you already know it. And he was like, it's a waste of time. He's like, it's stuff I already know anyway. I was the den father at Tiger Scouts and Webelos. And there were 27 other little boys that were brought there by their fathers. And out of 27 other options, the one woman in the room was the only viable candidate for den father. Oddly enough, nobody jumped up and said they misgendered me at that time. There's a thought. But yeah, so I had to do the archery and stuff like that and the fire skills, and it was just exhausting. It was like, seriously, none of you guys know how to do this crap? Really? Weren't you raised right down the road from me? Where have you been all your life? Pavement. Oh, pavement. Pavement. Pavement does bad things to the brain. Bad, bad things to the brain. Oh, okay. Okay. Very, everyone read this, but then it made me think of something else. So, in one of the area newspapers, they put in and they said, "We want you to drive our electric vehicles and give us feedback so that we can prompt families in the area to buy these electric vehicles, and we're going to save the planet." And y'all know how many times my electric goes out and all the problems we have here, and how much like our electric went up like 21% in this area this year. Like a lot of people on fixed incomes are not able to pay their bills right now. But we're supposed to plug in a car. Y'all, I'm hanging laundry on the line. I don't want to plug in a car. Anyway, so they were like, yes, try our electric vehicles. And I thought, okay. So I called. I said, yes, I would like to take a vacation and I would like to try your electric vehicle. You said 72 hours. So I would like to plan a vacation and take it for 72 hours. And they're like, well, that's great. 3 days. Yes, that's the average time period. You just have to do 3 videos a day, do one 20-minute check in, and keep a little, like, fill out a page every day about your experience and how long you spent charging. I said, okay. I said, okay. I said, I need you to help me because I don't know anything about electric vehicles. And I said, so I'm running blind here. I said, but I'm taking my vacation to the Great Smoky Mountains and I'm going to Cades Cove and I'm going to drive that 11-mile loop 5 or 6 times to count the deer and look at the bear and see the cabins. And they're like, oh, no, 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 no. We can only go like 150, 200 miles on a charge. What? And we there are no charging stations in Townsend or so many miles beyond Maryville. So you would have to charge in Maryville, and then by the time you got to Townsend and into the Cove, you would have to come back and recharge. So you actually wouldn't be able to go to the Cove. Well, okay, I won't go to the Cove. I'll go up to Cherokee, North Carolina. No, because you'd still have to charge in Maryville, and then when you went left to go up the North Carolina side up to the chimney tops, you would never make it because you would not be able to get over the mountain. There's not another charging spot. You can't do that. Okay, well, I'll just drive the thing home and drive it for 3 days. Well, okay, that sounds great. You can do that too. Where do you live? Tell them where I live. There's not a charging station within an hour and 15 minutes of your home. Um, so we don't think it's going to be a viable option for you to take this vacation or to bring one to your residence to test drive because it's just the infrastructure and the resources are not available. I said, okay, last question. Why in the heck are you putting these ads in rural papers and trying to talk people into buying $70,000 cars that can't run on county roads that are an hour and 15 minutes from the nearest charging station? Oh, well, we hope to build the infrastructure in the next 10 to 12 years. You telling me I need a mule for the next 10 to 12 years because you're going to take my gas hog and I'm going to not be able to buy one of those because I can't charge it. So I need to buy a mule for the next 10. That's what I'm hearing. I need a mule, maybe a pair and a wagon. The man was like, I don't know how to answer that. And I was like, how do you really think you're going to sell these things to people that live in the back 40? He goes, well, no one has actually called and wanted to go to the Great Smoky Mountains and to Cades Cove. I said, really? Because that's where everyone vacations here. I said, how many of those vehicles do you think you're going to sell in the Upper Cumberland Plateau area of Tennessee? I said, or in the Appalachian Mountains, or in the high country of North Carolina. Because y'all, when I leave my house, it takes me 45 minutes to get to another civilization. And they're telling me it would take me another 45 minutes to get to civilization that has a place to plug up my car. But my car won't make it that far. So I would have a car that would peter out about halfway to a charging station and it would just sit on the side of the road until the infrastructure was built in the next 10 to 12 years. So I've decided I'm going to buy me a draft mule that can pack my fat butt and I'm going to name him Henry. Because apparently Henry is more accommodating than a lithium mine and an electric vehicle. Now, he doesn't make the Pelosi's or any of those people near as rich, because all he does is eat corn and poop, you know. But Henry is going to be more compatible to me than an electric vehicle, according to the man that told me I can't even get home from the place where I can get one to try out because there's nowhere to charge it. But they're starting to reduce the amount of combustion engines produced. Is that another one of them federally funded programs that fails us? And then by the time we figure out that we've been failed, we're so far into failure that we just like, screw it. Are we just so comfortable with failure that we've forgotten what success is supposed to feel like? I hope not. The den fly, I'm telling you, tiger scouts and weebelows, the bane of my existence. Just ironing the shirt irritated me. We're trying to teach them to be rough and tough little boys, but let's crisply get your ascot line. I'm sorry. I just didn't see I'm sorry. It just, I get discombobulated sometimes, and weebelows and tiger scouts, we didn't make it to Boy Scouts. I was like, screw this, you know. And so my son actually knows 2 Eagle Scouts. They're about as useless as tits on a boar hog. I'm not gonna lie. They have a really nice plaque that says Eagle Scout. But if you were to drop them with my child somewhere in the back 40, my kid would come out fat, warm, well-fed, fine, and you would have to send their rescue squad in for the Eagle Scouts. A lot of stuff on paper doesn't really mean that it translates to physical capability. But boy, human beings sure like to put things on paper and say it transitions to a physical capability. Maybe if I put on a piece of paper that I weigh 122 pounds and won America's Next Top Model, I might get more viewers. Because if I believe it, your disbelief can't affect me. Because then you would be a bigot. Because I could totally win America's Next Top Model. And I can identify as weighing 122 pounds. What is that? 3 sacks of grain? 3 sacks of grain. Well, less than 3 sacks of grain. I see. I see the draw. Kind of the same feeling I see when I see the double stuffed Oreos on the shelf at the store. The difference? I know the double stuffed Oreos are not good for me, but the people that fill this draw and make these huge life, assertions and changes and discernments, they don't always realize this is not good for them. Because the discussions they should have had to realize it's not good for them, they couldn't have because their parents didn't raise them and they were put in federally funded programs where they couldn't talk about the important things. And so they got really used to being a failure because success was just something that could never happen. Because surely, if success could happen, it would happen from a federally funded program that people with huge brains came up with, that they took our tax money to create, right? That would be the best place, right? But what all the research and studies show that all these issues have worsened since all those programs started. We have more kids in state's custody, more kids in foster care, more kids needing to be adopted. We have more children that are just not even being welcomed into the world. And we've created a whole generation of executioners that should have been mothers. What does that do to the psyche of women? But wait, are they women? But we can't discuss any of this because it would be demeaning to someone. But it would be enlightening to someone else. But enlightening is not near as important as demeaning. Demeaning can get you into court. Enlightening can just make you smart. Gee, who sponsors the courts? Oh, there's those federal funding dollars again. And we're back in the three-dog butt-sniffing circle. I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired of following the butt in front of me. That view is not doing anything for me. Anybody else seeing these problems? That's a great spirit matter. That's a great one. Yeah, what happens in these times of emergencies when people get on these clogged interstates and they get in blocks and they're there for a couple hours and the car's dead? We don't even have the infrastructure, the resources to go and rescue those people because we told them they needed to leave because we don't have the infrastructure or resources. I don't know. To me, it makes about as much sense as putting up one strand of barbed wire for 40 head of goats and thinking nobody's going to break out. Because if you've seen a goat, you know that they invented parkour. They can get out of anywhere. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just like some people will have so much belief in that one strand of barbed wire that belief in that one strand of barbed wire just obliterates the capabilities of everything else. And sometimes they refuse to see the logic because ignorance really is bliss. Because when you have to deal with crap, why it sucks. But we can't deal with crap anymore. Because that could demean somebody. Because if we deal with their crap, then that can make them feel bad about their crap that they're not dealing with, and then we're bigots. So you can't deal with your crap. Unless you go to a federally funded program and see a professional and only tell them what you want them to know about your social media perfect life and never talk about the bad things and never make any progress, but you spend thousands of dollars and never really resolve anything. But you feel better because every Thursday you can post on social media that you saw your therapist. It's completely over a lot of people's heads, and I'm like, just wait, it'll circle back. Maybe you'll catch it next time. And it's just like, hello? You know, it's like people that have come here and they buy these big, huge farms because they have the money to buy them. And they normally go, oh, I need 40 head of cattle. Okay. And they're like, oh, I've got a big barn. I've got a second big barn. I've got a tractor. I've got a house. I've got 40 head of cattle. They're on pasture. And then it hits wintertime and they're wondering why their cows are getting skinny on all their the cows that were pregnant are losing their babies, and all the calves that are being born aren't making it. And then you're like, well, how much grain are you feeding? Well, the cows are eating the grass. Well, in the winter, did you know that the grass really doesn't grow that much? And when it does grow, the chemicals are wrong, and so they have this thing called grass tetany that can be very dangerous. And so you're supposed to feed roughage because they're ruminants and they have a four-chambered stomach and they need roughage to keep their bowels going. And then they need corn, and then they need protein so they can keep fat on their bodies. Otherwise, you just have yard ornaments that are going to go or bloat. One or the other. Either is not a good end. And then they go, well, I didn't know I needed hay. Really? You came to the middle of nowhere in rural America and bought a farm and bought 40 head of Angus cattle that cost you probably around $70,000, and you didn't know you needed to buy about 20 grand worth of rolls of hay to put in that extra barn down there that says hay barn? I just thought that was an extra barn. Did you read a book? Did you do any research? Did you talk to another area farmer? No. We just thought animals in the pastures roamed and that's what they needed. I mean, we've had farms where they've basically given cattle away because the cows were so close to death because the people that bought the farms didn't understand that. And they were like, if you can come get them caught and get them loaded, you can have them. And so all the old wise people that were like, well, we can get them fattened up in no time and get them back to health, they started carting these free, very nice registered Angus cattle off because these people came in and they had all the resources, all the money, all the funding, all the pieces of paper on the wall that said they were a smart, successful human being, and they failed miserably because they wouldn't talk to anybody and they wouldn't accumulate any knowledge that they didn't think they couldn't find on their own. Gee, there's those blind spots we're supposed to have friends for, those friends that help, because if they had talked to another farmer, that farmer would have said, did you know that extra barn is for hay and you need to have it full of hay before the winter because you're going to have to feed your cattle all winter or they're going to die? That would have been a great friend that could have stopped a great blind spot. But all those pieces of paper on that wall and that big, $200,000 home, that $500,000 farm, that $125,000 cab over tractor, it mounted to about a hill of beans. If you ain't got the common sense to ask for help. Why didn't you ask for help? Well, I thought I knew what I was doing. Well, that seems to be everyone in the world's problem right now. So how do we combat it? We talk about it. We can't talk. Oh, you're naming your mule Brandon. Okay, Brandon and Henry, they can be best buddies. And they will exchange Christmas cards. And what we'll do is we'll dip their hoof in ink and stamp the cards. I used to have a miniature Mediterranean Jack, and his name was Stormy. And we had him for like 10 years. Haley would hook him to a wagon, and she would show him. Like, she would go into big carriage classes and show him. But she always had to have someone over 18 riding with her, because if you're under 18, you can't show a stud on your own. So my 7-year-old child was in a cart class with her little stud miniature Mediterranean Jack rolling, and her cart and animal were smaller than the wheels on the big draft carriages that would pass her by, but she was just a chucking right along, and she would drive excellent. She would park excellent. The judge was always like, she would come out with like second or third place every time, because the judge would be like, you drive excellent, your etiquette's great, your animal's behavior is awesome. And she was like, thanks, I know, and there would be people go, how did she learn how to do that? Well, we got out there and we learned about it. We asked people that we saw that had really good skills, hey, teach us how to do this. Because when you got a blank spot in your brain and somebody else has that spot that's full, you go, hey, can you download here and tell me what's in there so I can put it in here because I need that. So why does humanity not do that anymore? I'm going to be snarky and say, is that a nice way you say you want to ride my ass all the way to heaven? Now I have to repent all day tomorrow for that one joke. Doggone it. Oh. There you go. There's an ethical and moral dilemma there as well. We don't allowed to talk about that. Do you know who went to Taiwan the other day that is not a member of our government or supposed to be on any airplane owned by our government? I'll give you a clue. She likes to get a little tipsy, and her husband just got a DUI. Their son, who is of age and on this L word with an M behind it, boards for a few of those, hitchhiked across the planet with his mama on the plane the other day. Nobody caught it except for one news agency, but nobody wants to talk about it. Well, if we can shove just anybody on those planes, why can't she just go over there in Afghanistan and get the rest of our people we left? I mean, if you can just tote anybody. How about we tote somebody that needs to be toted home? Go look into that. Because now I think, hey, if anybody can get on that plane, where's the lineup? I've never been on a plane that big. I want to go. The rural viewpoint. we do. We take a lot of things for granted. And I take things for granted because I'm in a rural perspective. So I have a lot of city friends. And it takes all kinds to make the world go round. And if we do not start re-knitting our society and building it back up to where we really do rely on each other and trust each other, and we really do care about our herd, and we really do care about the alpha that's taking care of the herd, we're screwed. If we really don't start working on those things, we're screwed, because we may be the animals with these big brains, but we are less successful than ants in an anthill right now. And that's got to say something. At least the ants can identify between crack cocaine and Parmesan cheese. I'm pretty sure there's a study somewhere. Let's go look for it. I mean, this is just all my opinion, just all my thoughts, perspective on the world. The world's jacked up. Like, if the world were a car, it would be like the brown Pinto that everybody's grandma had that had been wrecked 5 times, but still, like, somehow limped to the grocery store, that nobody wanted, but everybody was stuck driving. That's basically where we are right now. We're a freaking brown, primed, bondoed Pinto limping on its last axle. But we have all the knowledge to repair our society. But every time we try to do it, we defame someone, or we misgender someone, or we get the wrong pronoun, or it comes across misunderstood and they think it's a bigoted perspective. So we can't stop being offended long enough to be enlightened. Because right now, being offended pays way better than being enlightened. That's where all those federal funds go, by the way. So how do we get back to where being enlightened is more of a positive than being offended? I don't know about y'all, but it takes me a long time to be offended. Like, all this crap that's going on, and I'm still just kind of perplexed and irritated and a little disheartened and dismayed. But I have never wanted to, like, scream at somebody, "It's ma'am," or "How dare you misgender." I've never wanted to, like, take the time to have that conversation with somebody, because it's so much easier just to walk away, because that person has really no impact on my world unless I allow them to have an impact on my world. So just walk away. I've never stopped and given my energy to somebody that didn't deserve it. So why does everybody else give their energy to people that don't deserve it, and then get mad because their energy is going to people that don't understand them, and wonder why they're all alone when everybody that understands them is sitting over there going, "Hello, we're your group, your party's over here. Hang on, I've got to educate these people that don't understand me and don't want to know me and don't want anything to do with me, but I've got to educate them." Really, why? Wouldn't you be happier over here just hanging out with people that would accept you and love you? But they need to love me too. No. No. No, it's okay to have little isolated groups of people that gel really well. We don't have to love and accept and sing kumbaya with everybody. We can go, "Yeah, you're not my person," and that's okay. I'll find my person elsewhere. And that means, I'm not going to give you energy, and I'm not going to give you any of my good energy. But I'm certainly not going to give you any of my bad energy either. I'm just going to go over here and live my life. So why is it now that you have to take the time to give everyone your bad energy? So counterproductive. It's like, really? It's like, would you rather, like, have a cranberry walnut salad that's going to boost you for the rest of the day with chicken, and keep you well fed, or would you rather have explosive diarrhea from Taco Bell? Good, bad. Uh, Pretty easy decision, right? How come every time socially when we make a decision, we just choose explosive diarrhea socially? Why is that a thing? Our society really is as functional as explosive diarrhea. That's really what it is. It's silence because we think things are going really well, and then there's a silent rumble, and then boom, the dam erupts, and you can't clean it up. It's out the gate, and them stains ain't coming out. Our society is explosive diarrhea. That is the most profound thing I've said all day long, perhaps all week. So, how do you stop social diarrhea? Maybe that's tomorrow's live. I have, but I've not got the information I need on it to really have a profound discussion yet. But I have been like, really? Like my dad used to mine for oil in Saudi Arabia. He brought back a picture and I thought it was a boneyard, like where camels had died, and he said no. He said that is literally where all the people we worked with went to poop, wiped their butts, and just threw their toilet paper on the ground, and it was in the sand. I said, I thought that was a picture of a boneyard because it was taken from a distance. He said, no, that was just the big place where people wandered off. I said, they didn't even dig a hole. He said, they did not even care to dig a hole and bury their own poop. They just left it for everybody, God and Jesus, to see. And to me, that I was like 7 when he came back and told me this story, and I was like, oh, they didn't even bury their poop. Because you take me camping, I'm going to bury my poop. Let alone I don't want to deal with it, but I don't want somebody else to have to deal with it. Maybe at 7 I knew that society had explosive diarrhea. Maybe I just kind of circle back to that one. But literally, I thought it was a boneyard. I thought my dad had taken a picture of this like grand boneyard. He was like, no, that was the crapper. I just wanted y'all to see how bad it was. So they were making millions of dollars for these wealthy people and this grand oil well, and they didn't even have a porta potty. They had to poop in the sand, and the people that didn't even care to bury their own poop. I mean, that's just laziness right there. That's just laziness right there. I'm seriously, it's sand. A cat can do it. Can a human? Once again, we're behind the animals. I'm telling you, I think my theory has quite the foundation to it. If y'all notice my channel is gone tomorrow, you know what happened. You can find me on Brighteon under Hillbilly Heart. You can email me at watersworkload@gmail.com, and you can get me on Instagram at IzzbyWaters, IZZBY Waters. Because it's only a matter of time before YouTube figures out that I have too much common sense to be here, probably. I just really think that we have to start mending instead of destroying. And I think that we've gotten so comfortable with failure and destruction that a lot of people just think that's where we need to live. And they make their life around it. And they don't know to anticipate or expect more. So they find a comfort in it that is so grotesque to me. It makes me concerned about how big our brains really are. And I just want people to start building social communities and experiences and positive interactions and dialogue, and to realize that we don't have to love everybody. We don't even have to like everybody. We just need to equate their human life as the same, worth of ours, and say, I respect you because we're both human life. Now you go do your thing and I'm going to do my thing because you're not my favorite person, but that's okay. That's okay. And then go find your friends that fill up your blind spots so that you can be a better protected and more well-rounded individual that has a lot of people that looks out for you. Because that's what a community is. That's what friendships are. And then talk to them before you go talk to a complete stranger that is funded federally that can't talk about certain things that really are the things you need to talk about to help. Everybody needs to get out of that three dog butt sniffing circle. Well, we've been in it way too long. Cultural oversight. I don't know. I think for them it's probably just the norm. I just don't. I think they really did not anticipate how much like 70 people from the USA would poop in a 3 month span. Oh, is it social diarrhea? There you go. That's it. Yeah, we have made failure a success and success a failure in both um, emotional and mental and communal standings. But now in capitalism, boy, that ain't changed, has it? No, success is still success and failure is still failure. That doesn't change. The almighty dollar won't allow that to change. But mentally, emotionally, and communally, we've switched those things. It's like people say, oh, well, I'm not going to obey that law because it's not moral. Well, listen, legal and moral are not interchangeable words, but they both carry weight that can get you in trouble. So you need to be aware of both of them. And people only want to obey one. Oh, you can't do that. That's when you get into the legal more. Then you get into an ethical dilemma, and now you're foobarred because you have the holy trifecta of you have screwed up, and life gets really out of hand. But you can't explain that to people because they think you either have to be legal or moral because they're the same thing. And they're not. There's a lot of laws on the book, especially in older states. It make no sense at all. And if you knew some of them, a lot of women that are married violate a whole lot of them every time they get a little friendly with their husband. Go read some of them Mississippi and Alabama laws about married couples. Woo! Spicy, spicy. There's a lot of lawbreakers in Mississippi and Alabama, especially on Valentine's Day, I'm sure. But I mean, there's just useless things still on the law books. Has nothing legal, has nothing to do with moral, because something can be a law that needs to be structured and followed for the benefit of society, but it may not be a moral recognition in all others' books. But it needs to be followed for structural soundness in society. But it may not morally need to be followed by certain spiritual or religious groups. But guess what? Both can get you in trouble if you don't respect them. But people don't understand that. And that's where people get, they think they can self dictate and discern their own legal and moral code. Well, no, you have to understand the legal and moral code that you live in with your state because it is the annotated code for that state. You must live by that. And you have to understand that they try to make most laws of a moral thread, but some have nothing to do with morality. Some are just plain revenue ticket moneymakers. And so that's why you need to be legal and you need to have moral respect and and so that you don't end up with an ethical issue because that's like the holy trifecta of you have screwed up if you don't understand those three things in your life. There you go. Sometimes sometimes what seems equitable when it's finally placed in your hand seems rather light. Oh. Well, at least you didn't write down the social diarrhea. Oh, and that, yeah, that's what I'm afraid that people have gotten really comfortable with the expectation of less from themselves, from others, from the government. And the government's supposed to be, their one thing is supposed to be to take care of the people, the citizens of their nation. That's the one job you have. One job. One. And people every year expect less and less and less of others, but more than anything of themselves. And I'm like, what do you know what you have within you? Oh my gosh, you just messaged me and told me you did write down social diary. That's so much. But anyway, my thing is telling people you have this huge ball of energy within you. It is a light that shines. It is the energy that scientists and doctors and biologists and researchers, they can't understand what it is. It is just individually and inherently and intrinsically yours. And they don't understand it. But we all know it's there. We feel it. It seems like we feel less and less every generation. How do we reverse that? We start talking about it again. And we start doing things that make us feel it again. We start giving less of ourselves to these practices that they tell us are socially necessary that benefit us in no way. And we start practicing things that make us happy and make us smile. Putting our bare feet in grass, walking through mud. Don't do that if you don't walk really good, because I tripped and fell the other day. Not fun. But, just people that, I mean, my goodness, I feel my soul regenerate when I pick a bucket of beans with my mom. And yet, somehow we've become so comfortable with we must financially thrive before we emotionally and mentally and physically thrive. Really? Pretty sure you're going to live longer if you're mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy, because financially you can kind of stretch that. You can live off a little. I live off a whole lot of nothing. But then there we go. People with the big brains still not getting it. The ants are doing better than us. Just a lot of silliness going on in the world that we should we should know better than to do. We should know better than to project and repeat. And yet here we are, 40 plus years later, of the creation of a lot of these programs that were going to resolve all these issues, and we've gotten worse, but the programs are still being funded, the money's still going there, and nothing's being benefited, nobody's doing better. We're going down the crapper. But when we say, hey, we're tired of going down the crapper, you bigot, you shut up. You're getting that crapper. I don't want to get in the crapper. Even if you dig a hole, I don't want to get in the crapper. We can't talk about the crapper. You're a bad person if you talk about it. And it's like, no, we need to have these talks. We need to have these talks. And we need to tell younger people, it's okay if you don't like everybody, and it's okay if they don't like you. Go find your people. And if those are not your people, walk the other way. You're not going to feel cushy, warm, fuzzy feelings to everybody. It's okay. It's called a sixth sense, and that's going to help you find your people. If you don't feel cushy love feelings, you walk the other way till you feel those cushy love feelings, and then that's your person. You don't have to stay and verbally accost the person that you feel those spiky, hard feelings toward. That's a waste of your energy. But then again, we're backwards. That's a failure, but we think we're educating them, so we think it's a success. But the success would be to go find somebody that makes us feel good. But it's more important to fail and stay with the people that make you feel bad because you think you're educating them. No, you're not. You're just making them mad. Go be happy. Stop doing things backwards. I'm fixing to go to bed too. I've talked for way too long. Anyway, this is one of those big, like, whoo, I've been thinking about these things all day. And it makes me want to be 8 years old again in the creek catching crawdads without a worry. Knowing that if I caught 3 bluegill and a couple of bass, I could put them on a stick over the fire and I had dinner. Knowing that if I needed to cry, I could go and hug my little Shetland pony's neck and have a pout and feel better. And then I meet people that have never had these common comforts. And I realize that humanity is way worse than I thought it was. But I want people to understand that if you want things to be better, you have to start the change. It's not just going to happen. Music, you were in the. I missed your quote the other night. You were chatting and you put a comment, and I tried to reply to it and failed miserably. But you said something really sweet in last night's live, and I tried to thank you, and I failed miserably because I can't respond to the live chat when I watch it back. But I noticed what you said. Thank you for being sweet. Imagine if we, yeah, if we got rid. I live real simple, and I think that's what keeps me terribly open minded. Is because I need a lot of possibilities to get through every day, every month. I need to not close any doors or avenues because I have very little. So everything's an opportunity for me. Everything needs to be a possibility. Because if I focus on the negatives, oh, there's way too many of those. So I'm open minded. Um, and I think people that are very materialistic or feel very indulged, by their own wealth and what they've generated, I think that they forget that those simple things are really those soul comforts that we need. You know, there's a difference between like a human comfort and a soul comfort. And I think we as human beings were losing our souls. Actually, I think we just offered them up. Actually, I don't even think we acknowledge the existence of anything internal anymore. And I think we need to stop that, and we need to start realizing that our body does amazing things. Hello, we generate electricity. We can run a light bulb, hook us up. We can generate a light bulb. We can do amazing things. Your brain on an EEG does amazing things when it hears speech patterns, a loved one's voice, certain music that you like. There are amazing things. If you ever want to read a book or watch a movie, read Awakenings, or watch the movie Awakenings, but read the memoir it's based on. There is a whole inner sphere within you that we've just forgotten to talk about. Nobody talks about it anymore. And we don't acknowledge that because that's weird. That's strange. But when I say I'm a woman and then we get into a 20-minute argument about what woman means, that's not weird or strange. It boggles my mind what we accept and what we don't accept anymore. That's it. Keep moving. Don't get still. You get still, you get stagnant. You get stagnant, you get got. I mean, that's just life. You just got to keep flexing and moving and making ends meet. That's it. That's it. I mean, that's kind of just like a life philosophy right there. But yeah, that's where my brain's been. I need to shut up. Everybody needs to go to bed. I need to go to bed. I've had a long day. I did paint my cow. She's painted. Can you see her? I painted her. She's wet, so I don't want to pick her up because I've already got enough paint on my hands. I will show you her tomorrow after she dries because I need to put a few more freckles on her nose. And then tomorrow I'm going to paint the little one. We're going to do a bracelet craft tomorrow night. I'm going to shut up and just be friendly and super, super sweet tomorrow. And we're going to do a bracelet craft tomorrow. I just felt the need to spill my guts tonight. So if you don't see me tomorrow and I don't do a live and I don't do a community post, then you need to come to Brighteon and look for Hillbilly Heart. Or you need to go to Hillbilly Furs and message me. Or you need to Facebook search for Elizabeth Waters and find me. I don't want delusions. We do not need to lose the people that we have found. Find your tribe. It's important to have a communal tribe. That's it. That's it. The more people you have in the choir, the better density, the better music, the better sound. It's the same thing when you feel people in your life. You love my cow. It's gonna be Kaylee's cow. The baby's gonna be Ellie's cow. I guess right now we are going with the name Ellie. I guess Ellie Mae. Ellie for sure. Don't know. We're still on the middle names. They're still kind of working. So But no doom and gloom. Just know that you all, if you found your way here today, then guess what? Special things happen. Things happen for a reason. You have the power of discernment because you chose to spend time with me, and therefore you have the power to change your life because you made a choice to be here and listen to all of this, which tells me that you have the ability to make another decision and to improve anything that may be going south in your world. So guess what? Just by sitting here and tolerating me for an hour or so, you have shown me that you have all you need, all the skills you need to change and improve your existence on this planet and to stop social diarrhea, explosive social diarrhea. So it doesn't take many skills. It just takes changing a few behaviors and a few learned perspectives, erasing some of those blanks that we filled in with the wrong answers and just leaving them open until we really find the right answer. It's okay to have an empty blank in your life for a while. You don't have to answer everything. Let it be blank for a while and just fill it out. You don't have to answer everything. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be wrong. And you don't have to feel like you're being baited into arguments all the time. And it's okay to have boundaries. And it's okay to have questions. It's okay to have concerns. And it's okay to communicate all of these things because if we can't talk about the important things, then the important things are going to cease to be important. And the ants have won. And on that note, I'm going to bed. And I'm going to dream about ants or explosive diarrhea. Oh gosh. Sorry, y'all. If y'all have bad dreams, I apologize. Email me. We'll do a dream catcher. Thanks for spending time with me. I love you all. I'll see you tomorrow. YouTube hopeful. Night.